Hello and welcome to the session of a very special guest panellist of our Honours Festival week. My name is Alison Bennett. I'm the head of Honours in the Cabinet Office. I am not the host you were probably expecting, who was Sue Gray, but unfortunately she is stuck on a plane, so you have me as a host for the moment. So in a moment I'm going to turn to the panellists that have kindly joined us today, who are all Honours recipients from different parts of the UK. As we start, I just want to say a little bit about what we're doing. So this week is our Honours Festival week. We have a number of sessions going on over the next few days to talk about different parts of the honours system. And today's focus, this specific session, is intended to focus on how we recognise people around the country and why that is important. The honours system has tried very hard over the last few years to try to broaden its reach and its breadth. And we have seen successful improvements in the number of women receiving awards, the number of people from ethnic minority backgrounds who receive awards. And one of the key things that we're looking at now is how we can improve regional representation. There are still parts of the UK, which are mainly parts of England, actually, which are very much underrepresented to what we might expect to see if honours were being awarded equitably across the entirety of the system. So in particular, places like Yorkshire and the East Midlands and other areas like in the South are not equitably recognised at the moment. And we'd like to talk a little bit today about why that is important. So I'm going to bring in our panellists now, and I'm going to start with Riaz, if I may.
Hello, Alison. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Riaz, can you say a little bit about your experience with the honours system? You are, not uniquely, but interestingly, you are both a recipient of an honour and you are also an honours committee member. So could you say a little bit about who you are and how you engage with the honours system, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I have, I guess, the luxury in one way of being a recipient of the honours system, but also being connected to the honours system on a regular basis. I received a British Empire Medal back in 2013 for services to interfaith understanding. I recall the day when I got home after work and saw an envelope arriving and picked it up and was rather shocked by the contents of it. But it was a wonderful experience and something that was a special moment and has remained a special part of my life. The membership of the Honours Committee, that requires, pardon the pun, it is a great honour to be on the Honours Committee. Day in, day out, we see some wonderful examples of hospitality, of generosity, of charity within our country. And there is, of course, the phrase of glass half full or glass half empty. I have to say, as a Honours Committee member, not only is the glass full, it is overflowing. We have some wonderful, wonderful examples, which are testimony to the hard work put in by people up and down the United Kingdom. And in fact, many examples are so worldly that they would be befitting of an honour in any part of the world. And that's the greatest tribute that I can pay.
Thank you. Can you say a little bit about how you joined the committee? Most people probably haven't considered how honours are actually considered and recommended.
So it was an advert that I saw, which I applied for, and I attended an interview, and a short time after was selected to join the Community and Voluntary Local Services Committee. So it was what's deemed the CVLS committee to begin with. And after the last quinquennial review, or last but one quinquennial review, it was deemed that the committee that I was a member of, which was extremely busy, I must add, it was one which had a huge amount of work, and it was felt that the right thing to do would be to split the committee into two, to have a public service committee and to retain the CVLS committee. And I am now on the public services committee.
Thank you. Would you just, before I turn to the other recipients on the panel, could you say a little bit about what the considerations are that you take into account as a committee when you're looking at the nominations? You get a huge wad of paperwork in front of you. You've got maybe hundreds of people to read through. What are you looking for, and what's important to you about looking at, for example, the regional aspect of the nominees in front of you?
Sure. For me, the big word is impact. that when you read a citation, that you can visualize the story, you can visualize the testimony, you can visualize the person working. And I would say that that is the single biggest example of that. There are, of course, people who have wonderful CVs. They are members of various committees, contribute towards different organizations. But it's not about what you're connected to, it's the impact, it's the difference that you make. And that's what we look for as members. We're always looking for the difference. We're looking for that, the so what factor, where is the wow factor in each application. And so these are really important points which we take into consideration for every nomination. And I have to say that I am truly blessed on the committee that I am on, because on the one hand, I will have examples of people who have saved lives, and on the other hand, it will be people who have improved lives. And so picking out these examples and drawing attention to the impact that's been made is something that we very much value and very much cherish. I am based in the East Midlands, and Alison, as you mentioned, it is one of the areas where I guess we are underrepresented in terms of the honours system. And my experience would be that not only do I sit on the National Honours Committee, I'm also part of a local structure. And in order to increase the pipeline, we have to have organizations that own their areas. And I would say that would be local authorities, that would be the lieutenancies, which I'm a member of. And I have to say our lieutenancy in Leicestershire is extremely good, extremely rewarding and proactive. It's on the front foot, and it goes out and actively connects with people. And I would say for anybody who is in public life, but also in the charitable sector, you will encounter wonderful, amazing people day in, day out. Please encourage their nominations. Speak to someone about the acts of hospitality and try and convert that goodwill into an honours nomination. There are people that we will encounter every single day, and I would make that plea. And I think for us in the East Midlands, of course, there are three particularly medium-sized cities in Nottingham, Derby, Leicester, but of course not forgetting the smallest county in the UK of Rutland, and of course Lincolnshire and Northamptonshire as well. And I would strongly make a plea that through the lieutenancy and through local authorities and through public bodies and the charitable sector, I should also say I'm a member of the Community Foundation, where we administer a grant scheme. Community foundations come into contact with lots and lots of people who are doing amazing work. They are also an opportunity to explore.
Thank you ever so much, Riaz. Talking of some of the important work that we're recognising, I'm now going to bring in another of our recipients. So we have, I hope, on the phone, Melanie Brown, who is joining us, I think, from a car. So thank you very much indeed. Speaking of service elsewhere in the UK, you're from Yorkshire. Can you tell us a bit about what you received your award for, please?
I received it for my donation and awareness around domestic violence, which, you know, to receive an MBE, because I'm a Spice Girl, I would have thought it would have been about music, but it's just about what I've done and what I've been talking about from my past experiences, all about abuse. So I feel very, very honoured and still quite in a lot of shock.
How does it feel then? You just said you're world famous for music. How does it feel to be recognised for this aspect of the service that you've given?
I mean, I think it's amazing, because it's an epidemic that's going on in every single city, country, state, you know. So to be acknowledged not just for this, but to be able to bring awareness, and for finally that we're actually talking about this, which is, you know, not a very nice topic, but I brought my book out about 6 years ago, and I was fighting to get a publisher to actually publish it because nobody wanted to talk about those kind of things. So to be able to be acknowledged and bring awareness, and, you know, to be the voice of the army of women and men behind me, it's a true honor. It means so much to me. And yeah, I am in a car. I'm on the way to the airport to fly off to Australia, but I did not want to miss this. I didn't want to miss this at all. So thank you.
We really appreciate it. So it's such an important topic that you've been recognised for, and it's one that hasn't had an awful lot of publicity in the past, and I think that's maybe now getting a bit of traction, hopefully due to voices like yours speaking out. It may be too soon to say, but do you feel that the honour has made any difference to your ability to be heard?
I mean, at the end of the day, you know, normal people have to be talking about their everyday life. So it doesn't matter where you're from, how rich you are, what colour you are, or whether you're from a council estate or on the dole collecting benefits, or you're the CEO. You know, this can happen to anybody. So for me to be able to share my story, which was really nerve-wracking because the only other reference I had was the Tina Turner and Ike story, which was a movie that got released years and years ago. I'm sorry, I'm not really answering your question. I'm just ranting right now because I'm so passionate about this topic, this subject, because I've lived it. And for me, you know, my mum wrote her own chapter in my book. So did my daughter, who's now 23 years old. It doesn't affect you, it affects everyone. The way that you work, the way that you hold yourself, what you wear, whether you're in an abusive, coercive situation or you've come out of it, it impacts your life and it impacts so many people around you. You know, it's just one of those things, unfortunately, that we all know somebody that's been through this. So back to your question, you can ask me your question again.
Well, I was going to say whether I was going to ask you whether you felt that the honour had made any difference, but actually what you're describing is a situation in which you felt compelled to speak out, and you've been able to use your voice to really exemplify the issues.
I literally didn't know what was going to happen to my career when I unveiled my dark, hidden secret, because I was married for 10 years in this coercive, abusive marriage. And it was actually my daughter that said to me, if you don't release this book and let everyone know what's been going on with you, she goes, you're not the mother that I thought you were. So you have to release it, if not for me or you, but for all the other people that have been going through it or that are still going through it. So that really kind of made me wake up, because, you know, I left my abusive relationship, decided to write a book that I was never intending to really release. It was more like therapy. It's very cathartic for me. I've got my best friend Louise Gannon, who'd never written an autobiography before, and she just literally showed me how abused I'd been, because I didn't even really realize how abuse had affected me or how badly abused I had actually been on every single level. So to be able to stand proud and talk about it and be awarded by the, you know, the Queen and government is just, you know, crazy to me. But it actually shows to me that this is a subject and a topic that needs to be addressed, that needs to be acknowledged, that needs to have more funding for refugees. It needs to be really, we have to be held accountable, and we have to make a difference. And it needs to start from school. It needs to start from parents talking to their kids, making them aware that this is not a healthy relationship. If you're in a relationship where your partner's looking at your phone or checking it, that can escalate into something that's highly abusive and detrimental to your health, your well-being, and your mental health. And once you've been abused, you continue this healing journey for the rest of your life, because you can't unsee it, you can't undo it. You have to live with it side by side. So the survivors out there, let's not call them victims, because we are survivors that have fortunately made it, because let's not forget, 2 people a week get killed by their current partner or previous partner. You know, we should be standing proud and educating people, and where a voice that has to be heard. And finally it is being heard, not fast enough, not quick enough, but at least finally it's being heard.
Thank you. I mean, your passion for the subject really does come across, both for yourself and to help other people. I appreciate you've got limited amounts of time, so I'll ask you as a final question. What would you say for other people who are working in campaigning on these really important topics? What advice do you have about how they can amplify their voices and be heard in the way that you're describing, so that people take notice?
I mean, to nominate somebody, I mean, anybody that's changing other people's lives, whether it be a care worker, whether it be, you know, on a Friday you stop off at the old people's home just to give them a song, you know, everything makes a difference, and everybody should be celebrated and acknowledged, because to care about somebody else and somebody else's feelings, and to have empathy and understanding goes a long, long way. Because sometimes we don't show what we've been through. You know, I could say, yes, I've been coercively abused over time, but it's only because I would have to say that. You won't be able to see that from my demeanor until you spend time with me. So you never know what anybody's been going through. So just to help and nominate somebody else, and especially, you know, the people like hard on the ground right now that are just giving and loving and just caring for other people, we should all acknowledge them. And yet again, I didn't answer your question.
But you gave a better answer to the question I didn't ask. So thank you ever so much for that. I'll let you drop off because you are on your way to Australia. So I hope you have a lovely time there. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
I'm glad I could join you all. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck with the rest of your work. Thank you. So I'm going to move on now to others in our panel. And if I may turn now to Derek, who I hope is on the call.
Oh,
yep.
There you go.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. There's always that moment when you wonder. Right. Derek, better known as Mr. Motivator, could you tell us a little bit about why you've received an honor, please?
You know, when you do something which is your love and get recognized for doing something which is your love, that is an amazing thing, first of all. I've been blessed over the years in that the arena of health and well-being has been my arena, and I wanted to create a kind of fun way of everyone basically recognizing how important we are mentally, physically, and how our lives can be a real inspiration to other people. So Alison, you know, it's been told that you've been awarded for being involved with the health and well-being of the UK is really a great place for me to be. Because my platform over the years has been really easy for me to get my message across to people. Lots of people out there don't have that kind of platform. Mine is out there every single day, no matter where I go, no matter what I do, people know that what my message is, and I keep banging away at the drum. I'm a little bit like a woodpecker on a tree, pecking away, desperate to trying to make a hole in it to get people to understand that, you know, every single thing you do, right, has a direct effect on other people. And if you're healthy, that has an effect on other people. If you're not well, it has an effect on all those people around you. So what's the greatest gift that you can give yourself? Well, the greatest gift you can give yourself is an independent, healthier you. If you're healthy and you're well, you don't need anything else, right? You don't need the health service. You don't need all the care that you've been given. And so I'm out there as a kind of flag bearer. I'll always make the best analogy I can give you, and it's probably, Alison, you know, it's probably older than you. And to those people listening, I'm sure people will recognize when I say the Green Cross Code Man. He told us, right, that what you do is you come to the crossing, you look left, you look right, you look left again, and the road is clear. You crossed, but he was never there with you. But those words implanted on you, and what happened was every time you came to a crossing, you followed that advice. I believe that's exactly the role we should be doing with health and wellness. We should be having it into kind of a sugary coating so people don't recognize they're swallowing it, but they're doing it, so it becomes like a habit. It's the day you don't brush your teeth, you don't feel good all day until you've gone to the chemist and bought yourself some toothpaste. That's how health and well-being should be featured. It should be there as part of our everyday thoughts. So when you get up in the morning, you look in that mirror and you're proud of who you are. So I've been very fortunate. And so for me, the honor system has kind of re-highlighted what I'm about. But what about all the people out there who are doing a lot of good? And we don't hear anything about them. We don't hear a thing. And so those people are really important, and their story needs to get out there. And that's why I applaud the honor system, because even if it's only for a moment, we all become far more aware of someone who may be living next door, right? Or someone that we run into every day who's doing an amazing thing. And I say to people, you know, very often when we run into people, we must always remember this: be kind always to people you meet, because you don't know what internal battles they may be fighting, but equally, you don't know what things they're doing. because not all of us shout it from the hilltops. Not all of us say, I'm doing this for the community. And, you know, that's why I admire Mel. I didn't realize that she had received an award, in fact. But what it did was it highlighted the fact that she's actually involved in this arena, which is so different to what we know her for.
And you received your award during the pandemic for work that was partly to do with health and well-being during the pandemic, when it all became, you know, very much something that was all on our minds all the time. How are you now carrying on that message that you've just described?
Well, you know, for me, it's the past 2 years, and I feel a little bit guilty because the last 2 years has been my best years ever. I've never been busier because every company was reaching out to me. Some mornings I was getting up at 4 o'clock doing a transmission to Australia, Singapore, India, to the staff of, say, Google or whoever it is. And then at 11 o'clock, I'll be doing Europe. And then, you know, midday or the next day, I'll be doing America. And so it went on. And what I've had to carry on is to say to people this. You know, the difference between school and life is at school, you're taught a lesson, right? Which then they test you. In life, often you're given a test, which teaches you a lesson. So this last 2 years, we've learned a tremendous amount of lessons. We've learned the importance of having 4 walls, or, you know, having the importance of having a home. I mean, I'm someone who's homeless, and imagine, right? Imagine you've got 4 walls. That's a blessing. The second thing I've learned in the last 2 years is the importance of your health, which we mentioned. Because if you're healthy, you haven't got to worry about anything. And so we should all take stock and actually do something to make us healthier. The third thing I've learned is that if you've got food in the fridge, how blessed you are. I mean, that's an amazing blessing we've learned over the past years. And the final thing really is we've learned the importance of love. We've learned that who you love doesn't really matter as long as you love that person unconditionally. And every one of us listening now, and good afternoon, good day, hello to everyone. I forgot to say that at the top end. Everyone listening now, if someone is in your life that matters, every day remind them. But the most important person in the room is actually you. And after, you don't stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself how fabulous you are and how awesome you are. And you should do, right? Every day you should remind yourself how great you are. And that's all to do with positive thought, mental well-being, and then the physical becomes easier.
And I mean, one of the joys of doing the job that I do in helping to run the honours system is to see all the people that Riaz was speaking about earlier, all the nominees that we have, all the wonderful, positive, constructive things that are going on across the country that really make a difference to other people's lives. And it's nice to be able to say to them, oh, we recognise you, we see what you do, and we value it. So how did you feel when you received, it was probably an email, given it was during COVID, an email from us offering you an honour?
It was an email late at night, and I remember it came in, and I opened my computer at 11 o'clock at night, and there it was, and I thought it was a spam. But my wife said, read on. So I read on and realized it was real. And you know, I had 48 hours or whatever it is to actually acknowledge it, which I, of course, did. But I mean, I was jumping for joy. And listen, I have not hidden my light under a bushel. Every single thing that had Derek Evans on there has got MBE after it. If it's Mr. Motivate, it's got MBE. I've even got a sign up when I'm doing online classes, which goes motivated by exercise, MBE, right? You see, I believe wholeheartedly that every single one of us listening now, that your life can be an inspiration to others. And so therefore, can you imagine in years to come that someone turns around and say, because of you, Alison, because of you, Mel B, I have done the following, I've changed, my life has become more positive. And I think that's why we need to make sure we get this information about the honor system out there. So it's easy for people to understand that they all have a part to play. And it's quite easy, the process for them to go through to nominate someone, because I didn't know what it was until after receiving it. I investigated and found how you do it, because we need to highlight all those people who are doing that little bit. That means a lot to so many people.
And you were doing your little bit towards that today by helping us by speaking today. So thank you so much. I'm going to come back to you in a moment, but I'm just going to introduce, we've got 2 more panelists we haven't spoken to yet. Can I turn now to Kirsty, please? Kirsty, are you there? Wonderful. Kirsty Murphy,
Hi.
thank you for joining us. Would you say a little bit about why you received your honour?
Yes, sure. So back in 2009, I applied for and was successful in becoming a Red Arrows pilot. I didn't have many female Red Arrows pilots. In fact, I was the first one, and I'm still the only one to have done it. And when I was a Red Arrows pilot, one of the questions I was asked so much by the general public was, "What made you want to be a pilot in the Royal Air Force?" And it was something weirdly I'd never really thought about. And it kind of struck me, I guess, that the reason I became a pilot in the Air Force because I had exposure to it. So I was brought up, my dad was in the Air Force, and I spent time on his squadron, and I loved being on the squadron. I thought I want to do that. And also, I realised that these pilots, and they're all men in those days, these pilots were not superheroes. They were normal people. I mean, one of them was my dad. So they, it felt achievable. And that kind of made me realise that there's a whole bunch of people and young people out there who don't think of becoming a pilot because they just have never had any experience of it. So I started doing a bit of outreach work and working with young people, really just probably trying to encourage them to be a pilot in the Air Force, frankly. But the more I did it, the more I sort of got quite passionate about it, and it sort of developed really more into actually sort of helping young people raise their aspiration. So they don't need to become a pilot necessarily, but they need to. It's great to think outside the box. And if talking to me means they just get a little bit of exposure to something they've never thought about before, it might just help them or encourage them to think about other roles that they might want to do that, is not particularly linked in their family or maybe their local area. But it's still perfectly possible for them to do it. So I do a lot of outreach work. Obviously, COVID really started doing an awful lot. And for me, it was a really exciting time because suddenly, I wasn't being limited by my work time in that respect, because I could, at lunchtime, jump on a call and talk to a school or to some young people really easily. And also, I wasn't then limited geographically to the area where I live, and I could talk to people all over the country. And that was amazing for those couple of years when I was able to do that. Still doing it.
And we have also found that it's really helpful to be able to reach a wider geographical audience, to be able to do things online, hence today and events like it. Can you tell me a little bit, when you go out and you talk to people all over the country, what is that like? What do you enjoy about that the most? What feels the most valuable to you about doing that work?
Well, I definitely get a buzz out of it. So there's a certain amount of selfishness in it. I enjoy talking about flying. I enjoy talking about some of the things I've done, and I enjoy talking to young people. So there's sort of a lot of that. I guess one of the interesting things is you never really know the impact you're having. You don't know really who you're touching. And often it's probably the quiet one sat at the back that might actually be more affected by what you've said than maybe the noisy ones with all the sort of hilarious questions that they're asking at the front. But I'm really passionate about talking to younger age children. I think in the past, I've always thought that actually, to talk about careers, you're talking about teenagers here because they're the ones making their career decisions and their subject decisions at school. But actually, I think really, if you look right back to sort of age 7, that's the point at which people or young children, they don't necessarily decide what they want to be, although my 6-year-old's definitely apparently going to be a goalkeeper for Tottenham Hotspur. But it's not so much they decide that, it's more that they rule things out. And that's the really sad thing, especially for young girls, although that's not necessarily who I particularly aim at. And so that's the age where if you can expose them to something a bit different that is outside their normal life, then that's where you might have a bit of an impact. And that's really quite exciting. But sadly, I have no idea whether I actually have any impact on that front. Every now and again, I get a lovely letter from someone to say that because of what I've done or said, they've done something. I've mentored a few people and also obviously get to follow their career as they've maybe joined the Air Force. And that's lovely to get that feedback. But yeah, it can feel a little bit like doing something a bit blind, but it's worth it. Even if it's just that one person, you change their life, then definitely worth it.
Absolutely. And how has receiving an award changed your life? Has it changed your life? What has it meant to you?
It was an absolute shock, and genuinely I was just totally blown away by it. It was even more of a shock because I was actually at the time supporting an application for somebody else to get an award. So I'd had to do the other bit of the process about writing and thinking about how to sell this person. And so I had an email because it was in COVID saying that I'd got the award, but actually it said that you needed to acknowledge the email about the award. And I was thinking, well, why do I need to acknowledge an award for someone else? It's great they've been successful. And I thought this was a letter about somebody else's award. It took a while for me to realize it was for me. It was, first of all, the actual day itself was just mind-blowing. It was such a special time. And I think life is so busy nowadays, and I just, I've got a family, I've got a full-time job, I do this as well, I do some other things, and it's just busy, and you don't take the time to think or stop. And it was amazing just to spend the day sort of enjoying that moment. It's had an impact on my family as well, because obviously I can't do any of this without them and their support. So both my parents, who have brought me up to be who I am, and to care about others and do things for other people, and also my husband, but also friends as well. So it feels like quite a shared award in that respect. And I hope as well it has inspired other people to keep doing the work that they're doing. I'm a big fan of noticing the quiet people. I don't have a massive social media following or anything. I think it's really nice to be able to recognize people who are maybe a bit quieter and just get on with things, and recognize those people for that. So yeah, it's had a really big impact on me in that respect.
Thank you. I'm going to turn now to our last panelist, and then we'll bring everybody back on and ask a couple of questions if we may. So our last panelist is Jay Blades, who is joining us now, also from a car. It's a theme now, Jay and Mel B. So, Jay, thank you ever so much for joining us. Can I ask you, first of all, what you received the award for?
Well, first is hello, Alison, and hello, everybody that's on there. I can only see Alison, so I don't know how many other people are there. But I received my award for my contribution towards craft, is what I received it for. Yeah.
Being as you are very well known for your television programs, but you also set up a company in Wolverhampton. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what you do?
Well, what I do in Wolverhampton is basically refurbish old furniture, and I train a couple of young people up. But the main thing that I do is outside. So I'm an ambassador for the Princess Foundation, and also the Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust, a loose ambassador for the Building Crafts College, and also for the Heritage Craft Association, which is basically all around making sure that these heritage crafts, or making craft accessible for other people. Because I understand with me being on the TV, people would know me, reference the repair shop, which I'm at now. And I've just come out from filming, hence why I'm in the car, because it's quite noisy over there fixing items. And then basically, I try to make it where people understand that if you see someone like myself doing this kind of craft, you can do it as well. So that's the main thing that I do as my contribution towards craft. It's making it accessible for people like me from a working class background, or Black and ethnic minority people, is what I basically do.
And what made you choose Wolverhampton as your base?
Well, I chose Wolverhampton not on purpose. About 7 years ago, I fell down, so everything hit rock bottom. I basically couldn't see myself living in tomorrow, and I got in the car and I just drove. When I was driving, the car started flashing because it needed petrol, and that's where I ended up. I think I slept in my car for about a week, and then a friend of mine who was in Wolverhampton came and got me and took me under his wing, and is still looking after me to this day. So that's what led me to Wolverhampton. I came from High Wycombe, originally from London. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to leave Wolverhampton. I think that's where I'm going to be for the rest of my living days, to tell the honest truth.
You're home now.
Yeah, I'm home. And the love that I've received from the city of Wolverhampton, and also the people, has just been phenomenal. And I think whenever you go through a particular dark period in your life, and then the people that are around you support you to get you back to where you need to get to, you can't just leave them and say, okay, thanks a lot, bye-bye. It doesn't work that way, especially not for me anyway. So it's been something that I really like to celebrate, because if you look at the Midlands, especially the West Midlands, and I live closely to an area called the Black Country, this was quite responsible for making sure that the rest of the country was able to involve itself in this industrial revolution and stuff like that. And it's kind of been left to the wayside. So it feels a little bit like the ugly cousin, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying that I feel sorry for it, because the people there are so rich in the way that they've supported me, the way that they show me so much love. It's just like, why would you leave that? Yeah, I wouldn't, and I'm not going to. I'm home, as you say.
Sounds lovely. And what was the reaction from your friends and your family to the news of you receiving an award?
First of all, we couldn't believe it. We didn't believe it was true. And I remember I received a letter, and I got my fiance to read it to me, because I'm not great at reading as well. I've got the reading ability of like an 11-year-old. My reading is rubbish. So she read it to me, and I was like, really, is this true? And yes, it was true. And everybody else was just like, they're over the moon for me, the whole family. I think I'm the first. Yeah, I think I'm the first person to receive an MBE in my whole family. And I've got quite a lot of extended family, so that's quite a lot of people. And yeah, I am the first. Cool, blimey, I just remembered that. Yeah, they was quite shocked at and really pleased for me. Absolutely happy.
And have you had it awarded to you yet at an investiture?
Yes, I went to Windsor Castle and I received it from the Prince of Wales, and I believe it was a couple of months ago, actually, or it might have even been a month ago. The problem is my timetable doesn't allow me to process certain things because once one thing is finished, then I'm on to the next one, then on to the next one, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I think I got it from, I know I got it from Windsor, and the Prince of Wales gave it to me. I believe it was a month ago. I believe it was.
I think that we're hearing a theme across all our panelists of just how busy you all are. So thank you, Jay. What I'm going to do now is bring in all of the panelists and ask a couple of questions about the honour system and, as I said at the beginning, the importance of recognising people across the country. So if my glamorous assistant in the background would please bring in the rest of the panel. Thank you. That's brilliant. It's always nice when the technology works, as you said. Those of you who are watching in the audience, if you have questions for our panel, we're hoping to have a little bit of time at the end. So please do put those in the chat, and we'll try to pick any questions up as we go. I'd just like to start, though, by, I said at the beginning of this, we have areas of the country which are underrepresented, so places across the Midlands and the north of England in particular. And it's really important to us that the honour system is representative of the country as a whole. So we're trying to do some work about trying to make sure that people feel that the honour system is for them. So Riaz, can I start with you? You said some of this, I think, a little bit at the beginning when you were talking about also being a committee member. What are your thoughts on how we might encourage people to make nominations so we can make sure those parts of the system are fully represented?
Alison, there are two elements to this. One is, as a committee member, that I am an active committee member, that I simply don't prepare the packs for the 2 rounds of the honours system, but actually when I am involved in day-to-day work, that I'm constantly on the lookout, encouraging and supporting people to make nominations. So there's clearly something there, and I would strongly encourage people across all the honours committees to be doing something similar. Secondly, I guess the other element is speaking to others who are connected to those who are doing wonderful work on a regular basis. So I do think across the country there are organizations and there are structures in place that can really enhance the depth and breadth of nominations that we receive. And it would be a strong plea. I have to say, the public sector organisations in Scotland and Northern Ireland are particularly good at this. Being on the Honours Committee, I have noticed that there are lessons to be learned from those two areas. And I do think it's a case of making sure that the honours system is not seen as an individual award. If somebody gets an award, we've heard from Jay, what a wonderful testimony there. A personal honour then magnifies to a community, a city, a county, a country, of course. So it is in that spirit that I would strongly encourage outreach as being almost in the job description of everybody, all of us, honours recipients as well, that you receive the honour, of course, and we look back at pride at the time and the medal that we have, of course, but that is only the start. I think the pressure begins the minute you get the honour, because you've got to continue to expand and excel in the work that you do. I don't think you've reached the end of the road with the honour. It is just the start for me, and actually in a way puts more pressure upon you personally, but also to magnify and to expand the reach of the system to parts of society which often are underrepresented.
Thank you. As you might expect, I completely agree with that, and the importance of drawing in the community in support of recognising people. Kirsty, could I turn to you, because you said you've made a nomination, so you are familiar with it from both ends of the process. What motivated you to make your nomination?
Again, it was someone who I'd become a bit more aware of the award system in the military. It's something which I was definitely more aware of. When I became a civilian, it does feel a little bit less available, if you like, or easy to access. But because of my knowledge, I guess, in the military, I was aware of someone who was really going out of their way to do a lot of great work, and I just really wanted to help support that application. So a couple of us got together and put an application in together. So I wrote one of the supporting letters for it.
Thank you. And Derek, you said you didn't know how to make a nomination before you received your award. What would help somebody like you to engage with the system? What could we do more of to make it?
Well, I honestly think that there's a role that TV and the media can play in creating this ongoing awareness, because every single person's life story, in terms of those extra bits that they do, needs to have a public platform. Otherwise, people don't know. And I believe that we do get inspired by other people. I mean, for example, the only books I read are books, autobiographies, because I want to find out, about how people, the journey that someone has been on. I mean, it was so wonderful listening to Jay talk about, his journey and the help that he was given, and how every one of us have that kind of light bulb moment in our lives when things come together and collide, and that becomes the inspiration or the driving force that gets us going. But we need to use the media better. I mean, I do a regular slot on BBC Morning Live where we go out and we meet those unsung heroes and we highlight the work they're doing in the community. And I think that is the important thing we need to do, so that way people get inspired and want to do something similar.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we're not the only thing out there for recognising people. We're part of a whole ecosystem of ways of recognising people that are equally important. That you're acknowledging that the service that other people give in a range of fields. We heard Jay earlier speak about what is an entire ecosystem in craft and heritage in the work that he does. Jay, what can we do to improve more nominations in the areas that you work in? It's a vanishing base of people. What can we do to recognise that work?
I think one of the things we could do to recognise the work is just do more things like this and just let people know. And as you say, once you've received the award, your work has just started. So one of the missions that I've always had, even before I had the award, once I came out of that dark place, it was to influence people that I'm never going to meet. So for me, it's all about doing something that's much bigger than myself. So every step I take is an influence on someone who's going to see my journey and say, right, I can do it. I can achieve. I can do something that's unachievable, because I never thought I would be receiving an award or doing the work that I'm doing now 7 years ago. I never would have thought that. So it's just bringing more awareness of how you fill in an application form, how normal people. I love it when I got my award, because I think there was about 300 people there on that day. And I don't like the word celebrity, but the only celebrity that was there was myself. Everybody else was just quote unquote normal people. And they were getting awards for everything: contribution towards teaching, canoeing, plants. It was unbelievable. And it was so refreshing and rewarding to actually see that, because I never understood. And I think there needs to be more made about the people that have received MBEs who are not celebrities, who are just normal people, who are celebrating and supporting the unsupported and uncelebrated. Those people that are out there in the community that basically are just doing really good work. Those are the ones we should be celebrating more. And I'm not knocking us as people in the limelight. I understand it might bring more people to the table, but it's a case of those people. I just felt blessed when I was in that room with all those people that were just normal, because it was like they are being celebrated. And I just thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, Derek said something I think very similar about the people we had met. We have a question actually in the chat which says, are nominations for people in public life, like the panelists, done in the same way as people who are not famous? And the answer to that is yes, they are. They all go through the same system, so we have kind of two routes into making a nomination. There's the public nomination system that Leslie's obviously familiar with from having supported a nomination, and then there are our government departments go and work with stakeholders, councils, hospitals, charities, civic society in general and they go out and ask those stakeholders to suggest people who they can see making a difference in the community. But to Jay's point, the bread and butter of the system is the everyday unsung hero, and we say do something special for someone special by nominating them. But they are ordinary people who are often doing extraordinary things to support others. Sometimes that is quite visible. You as panelists are quite well known in your respective fields, and you know a famous face, as Jay put it. But there are lots of people out there who are doing different things, and who are being maybe making an impact in a smaller area or a particular organisation, and they're going through exactly the same process as more well-known people whose success and achievements and personal impact is perhaps a little easier to see because they're already well known. But yes, it's the same process, the same validation, the same honours committee that Ria sits on, who are doing that work, of having a look and deciding what the evidence base is. So I'm conscious that we've got about 15 minutes left. I'd like to ask you all a little bit about, and some have spoken a little bit about this, but I'd like to ask you a bit about what you feel that we could do more of to publicise the honours system. So you said sessions like this. Is there anything else that any of our panellists would suggest that we could get out and do to really emphasise the role that the honours system can play in recognising people?
Oh, well, no one's saying anything. So let me quickly say this. The first thing I'm upset about, Alison, is the fact that I haven't been Derek Evans without the MBE for the past 2 months, and I'm very upset that you've got Derek Evans, no MBE. So can you put that right, please? Thank you so much. The second thing is, you listen, I mean, there's no doubt that having a situation like this where we're all getting around the table and having a chat would be a good way. But also, how about you as an organization bringing forward to have a discussion, ordinary people who have actually got the award. So therefore, you have a chat with them and talk about how they feel. Because yes, we're well known, but I think if it was a regular thing where maybe it was once a month, you meet XYZ from Walsall, who really did a great job, and also this person from Lincolnshire, and another person from Leicestershire. I believe that if you just have one well-known people in there, you'll still bring people in who will want to watch and hear those stories and hear how they got their award, how they felt. And I think that will serve as an inspiration to other people.
Alison, can I add in an idea? We have a huge number of ambassadors. And by ambassadors, I'm talking about people who have been honoured by Her Majesty the Queen. So all the BEM, MBE, CB recipients, so on and so forth. Why don't we have a special plea? Ask all of them to go out and encourage nominations. Almost have a targeted campaign. Let's try and boost this. So give each and every one of them a task. Contact them, and say to them, you need to go out there and help us to boost the system. Try and encourage nominations and so on. So come on, let's all do it. Because often it's seen as Cabinet Office going out to organizations, official organizations. Well, let's really take it down to a different level altogether. So there are ordinary members of the public who have been honored this time, and of course in previous years. Put a plea out. Let's all work together collectively. We have a responsibility as recipients to push this out. So let's do it. Let's start with a campaign, and then hopefully that'll be something that could be done on a regular basis.
Can I add that it strikes me as really similar to the other question I get asked a lot is how do we get more women in aviation? How do we get young girls interested in becoming pilots or going into the aviation industry? And with this very sort of, everyone's very sensitive, actually, understandably, about quotas, and it has to be the right person for the right role. You shouldn't just get a job because we're down on girl numbers in an organisation. But I feel very passionately about the fact you have to go out and get people, bring them to the door, and then it's about is the interview good enough? In this case, is the application strong enough to actually be successful in getting an award? So for me, it is about actually sort of a bit like Riaz said, is you've got to go out and really actively hunt out people who deserve these kind of awards, and then encourage someone to apply for them. And I feel quite strongly that that's the way to do it. It's not sort of positive discrimination in that respect, because their application still has to pass the high standard that is set.
Thank you. I think that's a really good point. Some of the challenges we face in the honours system are very similar to the challenges faced in many sectors in trying to broaden the people that they engage with. So that's an incredibly good point. And I'd also like to pick up the point about using post-nominal letters after your name when you've got an honour. We once had a committee member who was a nurse. She was a woman who was from the north. She was black. She told me that she never used the honour that she'd received before she became a committee member. She never told anyone she'd got it because she felt embarrassed about it, a bit shy about using it. And I said to her, well why? Because actually you're being recognised for something amazing that you have done as a nurse, really important work that everybody would recognise as important. And she said, well, put it that way, and put it in the way that, you know, we're trying to encourage and celebrate people's achievements. You should be proud of your achievements. You should be proud of having been recognised. And after that, she started using it all the time. So my plea also to recipients is, you know, go and shout about it. Show people a picture of you at the investiture in the fancy clothing. Use it on your email signature. Remind us when we fail to use it on things like this. So it's there. It's important, and that it means something. That's what we hope when we offer honours, that it will mean something to the individual. But as a couple of you have said, it's not just about you, because nobody gives their service in a vacuum. There are other people around supporting you, helping you to do whatever it is you're doing, and who are also affected when you receive an award. And I'm not sure I asked this earlier, but what's it been like for your families? Riaz has had his award for a while, but the rest of you, I think, are quite recent recipients. Has it made a difference? Has it meant anything to your loved ones as well?
I don't think it's made a difference to my loved ones. I think, and the only thing it's done, I would say, the difference it's made for me is just been kind of it's an acknowledgement of you are on the right track, because I was doing stuff anyway, and for me it was like I've got to influence people that I'm never going to meet, because I'm very fortunate to still be here and to be doing the job that I'm doing. And I always, when I was mentoring young people years ago, I always said to them, if you ever have an opportunity to actually influence people you're never going to meet, or make an influence, you should utilize that. So being on the TV and having over millions of people watching me, it's a case of I should be doing something outside of the TV. I shouldn't just be taking all of this limelight and doing absolutely nothing with it. So receiving the MBE, by looking at the contribution towards craft and making sure that it's accessible to other people, it's a bit like the honours. It's like everybody has an opportunity to be celebrated or to achieve what they want to achieve, but it is up to us to make sure that we go out there and we champion.
Oh, we just lost him. Yeah, but Alison.
On an inspiring note.
Sorry about that. Someone calling at the same time.
but Alison, I tell you, I don't think it's made a difference to my family, but I tell you what it's done. It's allowed me to highlight to people out there that this journey I've been on, I've not been alone. That what makes my journey successful, if you wish, is the wife I've had for 30 years. It's the children I have, and all those things that make up the support mechanism of who I am. And so therefore, although it says MB and it's given to me personally, I think it's been given to all of them. And so what I do with every single interview I do, I draw attention. I talk, Palmer, my wife, I mean, she's just been great. She was there from those early days when I was in a school hall, and she was the one who was actually collecting money at the front and actually packing up the bands at the end of the class, right? And she was always the one who was there when I twisted my ankle, and she was the one who was there to actually treat me and look after me and stuff like that. So the MBE to me is personal to me, but it's also personal to my whole family.
Just to lighten the mood slightly, I can also add that the biggest impact had on my family is my 6-year-old, who previously thought I was the uncoolest mum ever, because clearly I'm the one who puts to bed and, very strict, all this other stuff, and totally not interested in ever watching me flying. He thinks that's not very interesting at all. And then for me to go and him see, he came to Windsor with me, but didn't come inside, obviously. And he was like, "You've actually won a medal. It's amazing." So I've gone up massively in my son's opinion, which has been brilliant. So I do thank everyone for that.
I can't imagine the pilot as a mum not being cool. I mean, honestly, what more do you want?
Yeah, never mind.
We're running out of time, so I'm going to start to wrap up. Anybody on the panel, is there anything else that you'd like to add that you haven't mentioned so far? Any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
I don't really want to add anything, Alison, to the end, other than I think it's really important. I just really repeat what I said at the beginning, and that is, remember that each person's life can be a real inspiration to others. So never hide your light under a bushel, right? And don't let anybody, right, cover your light up so that they may shine brightly.
They are.
I think
Sorry, Jake.
That's all right. That's all right. The only thing I would add is probably, and you're doing this already, as I said when I went to Windsor to receive my MBE, you're celebrating the uncelebrated. So if people are out there, someone is thinking of someone within the community, please just put that application in, because it's all about celebrating the uncelebrated. I think the majority of the people, if not all of them, that I went to on that day, and it was kind of like a backlog because of COVID, were all normal people. And these are people that don't necessarily get celebrated, but by giving them the MBE, just allows them to go back into the community feeling proud of what they're doing, that someone's watching over them and saying, yeah, you're doing a good job, and just making sure that we do more of those people, because up across this land, there are so many people doing brilliant work. I mean, unbelievable. I get to meet a few of them, and it's like, wow, I get blown away. I wish I could spend my time filling in all of these applications, because the amount of people I've met, there are some real special ones out there, real special.
I think I'd like to add, actually, just to take what Jay just said there, the next step, having had experience of writing and nominating someone, it did feel daunting. I felt like I should be using language that, didn't come naturally to me. I should make some very high level argument about why someone should get this award. And I wrote it about 4 times. And then in the end, I decided, actually, I just need to stick to the facts. What do they do? What are they great at? And what the impact is that they've had, which is what Riyadh said at the very beginning. And when I then brought it back down to my level, and I just wrote it in clear, old-fashioned English that just got the message across, and it was a successful application. That person's been given their award, which is brilliant to have been part of that process. So there's a lot in it for me, having done that nomination. So I think for people, it feels nerve-wracking, because it feels so important that you're writing this sort of passage on someone, but actually they write it just how you see it, how you feel it, and what you think they do, and that will speak volumes in itself.
Alison, just one other thing as well, and you may not forgive me for saying this, but keep us busy. Keep Alison and myself busy on this committee. Keep piling in the nominations. I will just say, for those who are rather daunted by this, there is a huge amount of support available. And if I could just draw their attention to, if they are a little bit anxious about putting in a nomination, contact your respective lieutenancy. So Her Majesty has representatives across the length and breadth of the UK. Contact the lieutenancy office, seek a bit of help, a bit of advice. Contact the honours committee at the cabinet office. There is a huge amount of support available, where you can just have some tips on how to write a nomination. Of course, the cabinet office group as well, Alison, your team, of course, prior to COVID, we're doing a huge amount of outreach work, going to different parts of the country, running seminars. All of those things do make a difference, but there is a huge amount of support available. Read profiles, read case studies of people who have done some tremendous work. There are always clues in those. So yeah, keep us busy.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. So firstly, thank you to our wonderful panelists for talking so interestingly and openly about their experiences, and thank you all for the service you've given in your respective fields. That's amazing. To the people who've given up their time to watch this, thank you as well. If you have been inspired perhaps to nominate someone. And I'm a firm believer that everybody knows somebody who ought to be nominated. It is actually quite easy to do that. You can go to the government website, www.gov.uk/honours, and there is a form there. You can either complete it online, you can download it, you can print it, you can actually write or phone us and we'll send you a copy of it. And it just asks you to fill in some information about the person that you want to nominate. Tell us a bit about why they're special, what they're doing that's different from other people, what they're achieving, who they're affecting. Fill that in, ask a couple of other people if they will also write to us to let us know about the person, so that we get a bit of a rounded view of who they are and what they do. And we will then use that information. We've got a nominations team in the Cabinet Office who will then go and read the nomination, do some work to assess it. And the strongest cases then go to one of our 10 independent honours committees. Again, you can find out information about the committees online. They are staffed by people like Riaz who give up their time to read huge amounts of paperwork about people, which is both glorious but also daunting. And then what we do with that information, or the recommendations that those committees give us, we go and ask the Prime Minister and the Queen if we can award honours, and then we drop a letter or an email or sometimes a phone call, depending on how far away somebody is, to those people who have been recommended, and hopefully they then receive an honour. Thank you ever so much to everybody who has given their time today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. And please do think about making a nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.